everybody, welcome to Black Americana. I'm Ashley, and in today's episode, we are looking at the life and legacy of Angie Stone. She received wide acclaim for her talent, but she was quite misunderstood. We are going to unpack what shaped her as an artist, how her relationships affected her career, and her fight for just due in the music industry. So if you're ready, keep watching. Angela Laverne Brown was born to Bobby and Iona Williams on December 19, 1961 in Columbia, South Carolina. Her mother was a hospital technician and her father worked various jobs as a cab driver, construction worker, and legal assistant. Growing up as an only child, Angie grew a tight bond with her peers in the Saxon Home Projects, where she was raised, and in church. When speaking on the church, Angie said, "Well, it scared the mess out of me. It taught me to do the best for our people in general. I felt that with my upbringing in gospel music and the knowledge I learned, it helped me to deal with the drama that we deal with out in the industry." Two of her closest friends were her neighbors Gwendolyn Blondie Chisholm and Cheryl the Pearl Cook. All three girls were selected for the cheerleading squad at C.A. Johnson High School and came up with their own cheers. By the late 1970s, hip-hop was taking Black America by storm, and Angie, Gwen, and Cheryl adapted their cheers into raps and began performing at a local skating rink. They decided on the name The Sequence since so much of their lives were in sequence. They heard one of their biggest inspirations, the Sugar Hill Gang, was coming to town and they were determined to go to the concert. In 1979, Gwen's boss had promised to reserve tickets for them, but when they arrived at the box office, no such tickets existed. While they were waiting outside, a member of Sugar Hill's team began flirting with Angie, and she charmed him into letting her and the rest of the girls backstage. They quickly let it be known they could rap, but a producer declined to listen. Suddenly, they heard a woman's voice say, "I'll listen to y'all." The voice was Sylvia Robinson, co-founder of Sugar Hill Records. The crew backstage laughed at the girls as they performed because their southern accents were so strong, but when they broke out one of their adapted cheers called Funk You Up, Sylvia realized they could be stars. Sylvia had Sugar Hill bassist Doug Wimbish come out and find the groove. He keyed in on Angie as the dominant pitch master and developed the song's signature bass line. Within days, Sylvia booked the girls for a flight to New Jersey to record Funk You Up, finishing the song in one take. In November, less than 1 month after meeting Sylvia, their song was on the radio. By December, Sylvia asked them to meet the Sugar Hill Gang in North Carolina and join them on tour. As promising as things seemed, Angie was still a singer in high school and her parents were not having it. Angie recalled, "I'm like, my mama ain't gonna let me go nowhere." Blondie was like, "Lord, I know my mom ain't gonna let me go nowhere." But at this point, the record was a hit. I was there crying like a big baby. "I'm not gonna get this chance ever again in my life. Please." My dad said, "Girl, you can cry, you ain't going nowhere." My mom and dad said, "They ain't gonna do nothing but take you up there and make prostitutes out you." In their world, Sylvia Robinson and them were northern people, and their sense of nurturing wasn't on the level of a southerner. So moms was thinking the worst. Angie said her parents changed their tune when she brought home $500, but she was taking a risk pursuing music. She happened to be a talented basketball player and walked away from 4 college scholarships. But the sequence was making instant history. Funk You Up delivered several firsts. The first record released by an all-female rap group and the first from a southern rap group. They also pioneered rap singing, a style that wouldn't fully catch on for more than a decade through acts like Destiny's Child and Usher. The girls were also in-house writers for Sugar Hill Records, with Angie later claiming the girls wrote Sugar Hill staples Eighth Wonder and Apache, which has been spoofed many times. The sequence had a 5-year run, but interest waned when they didn't match the success of Funk You Up and hip-hop shifted from party anthems to gritty street rhymes. The group was also having issues with the label. Angie claims Sylvia Robinson, who was in business with her then husband Joe Robinson, had a disdain for Joe educating their artists on the dangers of the music industry. When contract renegotiations came up, Angie put her newfound knowledge to work. She said, quote, Sylvia wanted us to re-sign the contract and there was no advance attached. I had learned a little bit in the Bronx and I'm like, I'm not signing no more paperwork without an advance. I didn't know what to ask for, so I just threw out a number, $10,000. That's how naive I was at the time, because I wasn't thinking about lighting gas. I wasn't thinking about water. I was just thinking about having a roof over my head. I'm not going back to South Carolina a failure. Cheryl didn't feel it was fair for me to get $10,000 and they not get $10,000. I went outside for about an hour, sitting in the park across the street from the studio, and I came back in and I said I wasn't going to re-sign the contract. And then after it blew up so bad, we hardly was speaking, everybody was on edge, and it just fizzled out. During Angie's time on Sugar Hill Records, she met and fell in love with Rodney Stone, better known as Lil Rodney C of the Funky 4+1. He is noted as the first rapper to use Lil in his stage name, and the Funky 4+1 were the first hip-hop act to appear on national television when they performed on Saturday Night Live. The two moved to the Bronx and began promoting hip-hop parties. Shortly before the sequence went dormant, Angie discovered she was pregnant and she and Rodney quickly married. She gave birth to Diamond Tiara Stone on April 6, 1984. Angie had a high-risk pregnancy, so her postpartum recovery was difficult. Rodney's group was also feeling the effects of the shift in hip-hop, and he was desperate to salvage his career. Now with new responsibilities, Angie felt they needed to pivot. She was willing to work a 9-to-5, but Rodney felt he needed to focus his full attention on music. The two eventually divorced, with Angie going on government assistance. When Diamond was 6 months old, Angie arranged for her parents to raise Diamond back in South Carolina. Angie kept a presence in music by singing jingles, but she worked various temp jobs too. She faced a severe medical crisis when she was 26 when a lab where she was employed had a chemical spill. The substance was airborne and damaged Angie internally, leading her to be diagnosed with sarcoidosis. She persisted with music, securing a spot as a background singer and saxophone player for Lenny Kravitz. This led to a publishing deal with MCA Records, where she wrote for artists like Princess Prodigy, Jill Jones, and struck up a friendship with the Purple One himself. She also mentored up-and-coming artists like Mary J. Blige. Angie used her funds to buy studio time, which led to her meeting David Bright and Willie Bruno II. They formed a trio called Vertical Hold and signed a record deal with A&M Records. A major selling point of the group was their ability to self-produce, with Angie being a songwriter and David and Bruno being musicians. But the group was already having issues by the time they recorded their debut album. Angie and David were in a romantic relationship, but Angie felt he wasn't attentive. This inspired her to write their signature song, Seems You're Much Too Busy. Angie's weight was a marketing issue, and the music video for Seems You're Much Too Busy was designed to remove the focus from her physique. Their 1993 debut album, A Matter of Time, received rave reviews, but sales were underwhelming. For the group's next album, 1995's Head First, Angie lost 70 pounds in hopes it would increase the group's exposure, but their second album made even less of an impact. Devastated by the group's implosion, Angie returned to working behind the scenes. Angie signed a new publishing deal with Midnight Songs, run by Jocelyn Cooper. Another songwriter signed to the company was Michael Archer, who went by the stage name D'Angelo. Jocelyn introduced the two, feeling their shared Southern backgrounds and traditional approach to R&B would make them natural collaborators. By the time Angie met D'Angelo, he was almost finished with his debut album, but he was struggling with the final touches. His manager asked her to step in and offer D'Angelo some structure. Before long, a romance bloomed. Ironically, Angie began to lose focus on her own career because she was so consumed with him. Angie alleged D'Angelo was very possessive, telling Essence magazine, quote, "D'Angelo is very possessive of the women he loves and had a major jealous streak. When he became a superstar, I never gave him cause to look twice because he had me so in check, I wouldn't even turn my head if he was driving on a freeway because he didn't play that." His debut album, Brown Sugar, was a major success, and immediately other influences began to discourage their relationship. For one, Angie was over 12 years older than D'Angelo. Then people felt they were a mismatch looks-wise. According to Angie, quote, "You know what? The criticism that D'Angelo and I received about our relationship only began once he became successful. What people didn't realize was that before he became successful, there was Angie Stone from the group Vertical Hole, a strong, beautiful sister who dated somebody who had not even crossed the threshold of the industry yet. When I was dating him, he wore glasses, had short hair, and his pants were hanging down to his butt. He was just a 19-year-old kid with big shorts, and nobody cared, and no one saw his beauty but me. And I told him, 'You are beautiful. I promise you, when your record drops, your lips are gonna become famous. Your eyes, everything will become famous.' He couldn't see it because his self-esteem wasn't where it is today. He didn't even have an image, and his hair was really short, so I braided his hair with thread for his first album cover. It wasn't until Brown Sugar came out that people actually took a good look at him and said, 'You know what? He's fine.' Then all of a sudden, he's so fine he shouldn't be with me." As their relationship was breaking down, Angie became pregnant. Their relationship officially dissolved after the birth of their son, Michael Archer II, in 1998. Angie was devastated by the breakup, admitting that she fell into a depression. Before she gave birth, Peter Edge, who was an executive at Arista Records at the time, heard some of Angie's demos from the early 90s. He was impressed and sought her out. Upon Clive Davis's approval, she was signed to Arista. Angie finally released her solo debut album Black Diamond on September 28, 1999. The album title was in tribute to her daughter. The first single, No More Rain in This Cloud, was a hit on the R&B charts. Angie had to adjust to the success, saying, "That was when the real work began and I was already exhausted. Was I ready? Absolutely not, because I didn't expect it. All of a sudden, what was initially a pleasure turned into work." Angie was also having health battles, with the medicine prescribed to treat her sarcoidosis contributing to her reaching 230 pounds. She was also diagnosed as diabetic, which she hid from Clive Davis. But perhaps her biggest public battle was the perception of her relationship with D'Angelo. She said, "I spent a lot of time defending myself. My life was such an open book that I never had a chance to redefine who I was. A lot of people thought I was bouncing back from heartbreak. I had to prove that I was somebody before I was a baby mama, and I didn't like that." Angie even went as far as saying she felt the controversy over D'Angelo hurt her career. She took on other projects during the Black Diamond era, like singing the theme song for the hit show Girlfriends and contributing to the Disappearing Act soundtrack. Black Diamond was certified gold by the RIAA. Before Angie could shift gears to her follow-up album, Clive Davis was ousted from Arista in 2000. If you want more details on that, check out our video, How L.A. Reid Rescued Diddy. Clive was allowed to take select artists with him to his new label, J Records, with Angie being amongst them. Another who went with Clive was the then unknown Alicia Keys. 2001 rolled around and Alicia made a summer splash with her debut album, Songs in A Minor, and it became a worldwide hit. Angie released her sophomore album, Mahogany Soul, that falls to much critical acclaim, but she was frustrated her work was not met with the same enthusiasm as Alicia's. The album's first single, Brother, received a mixed response. The song was released in an era fresh off of TLC's No Scrubs and Destiny Child's Bills, Bills, Bills. When explaining the intent of the song, Angie said, "I think that my brothers have caught a lot of duff in the game. And I wanted to spearhead all of the women in music not to be so hard on our men through song, because we can only be so many B words and they can only be so many dogs. After you run out of that, what are you? You're queens and kings." Still, some felt even with non-black music listeners more openly embracing hip-hop and R&B, the song's message was too narrow to reach a new audience. The biggest hit from the album, Wish I Didn't Miss You, was one she didn't even want to record. She agreed at the behest of Clive Davis, and it became her biggest international hit. The fan favorite from the album was More Than a Woman, which was prepped as the third single. The song featured Calvin Richardson, who was also signed to J Records. The song was initially meant to be his alone, but when Angie heard his version, she suggested they do a duet. Now this Calvin story has some twists and turns, so hold tight. Calvin was featured as Angie's love interest in the Brother music video. In a June 2002 interview with Entertainment Weekly, she revealed Calvin was her boyfriend. She declared moving forward she would only be doing duets with Calvin, stating they drew inspiration from Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell, and Johnny Hathaway and Roberta Flack. She even said her next album would be a duets album with Calvin. But apparently, Calvin let Angie know he had a pregnant girlfriend while she was going on a public spiel about their relationship. When More Than a Woman had a single release that September, Calvin's vocals were removed and replaced with those of R&B star Joe. Of course, Joe was the bigger star, so it made sense from a marketing standpoint. But when Calvin quietly left J Records later that year, many speculated how much the fallout with Angie affected his career. Calvin's son was born in November 2002, and he released an album the next year titled 2:35 p.m. to commemorate the time his girlfriend gave birth. Despite the drama, Mahogany Soul was certified gold. During this time, Angie also made her movie debut, having roles in The Hot Chick starring Rob Schneider and The Fighting Temptations with Cuba Gooding Jr. and Beyonce. As Angie prepared for her third album, she set her heart on the album title Diary of a Soul Diva, but reportedly Clive Davis told Angie to change the title because Alicia's upcoming album would be titled The Diary of Alicia Keys. Angie capitulated, but she felt dejected over Alicia receiving higher priority. By the mid-2000s, neo-soul was somewhat stigmatized, and the lines between hip-hop and R&B were further blurring. For her 2004 release Stone Love, Angie decided on a more upbeat album and returned to her hip-hop roots. She was engaged to the rapper THC during this time and enlisted him on her song Karma. Unlike her previous work, the album produced no hits on the R&B chart and failed to reach gold. After a disappointing third effort, Angie began work on her next album when her relationship with J Records deteriorated. She said, "J Records actually led me to believe we were recording a regular album. Halfway through the process, they said they wanted to do a greatest hits album to save costs. That was speaking volumes to what my future would be. A lot of people want to know if I was dropped. I wasn't dropped. I asked for a release. Before they could do that to me, drop me, I said, why don't you release me and we can all be happy?" J Records granted her release along with a payout of $50,000. Clive Davis was troubled by Angie's decision and discussed it in his memoir, The Soundtrack of My Life, writing, quote, "Somehow, unfortunately, she and we were never able to come up with the defining hit that would truly cause her career to soar. Angie came to believe that she had been eclipsed by Alicia Keys, and in a sense, that's true, though it was definitely not a reflection of any formal or informal policy at J." It's easy for an artist to say, oh, they've got a new favorite now. But history has shown that there's always room for another success. When we had Gion, there was room for Aretha, and when we had Gion and Aretha, there was room for Whitney and later Toni Braxton. We promoted Angie as strongly as we could, but after a couple of albums without major breakthrough cuts, she had plateaued as a gold-level artist. That's certainly more than respectable and reflected Angie's real talent and sizable following. But the truth is, Alicia looked to be an all-timer. She was the subject of tremendous interest in the media and the industry, and she was also writing and recording big hit singles. It would have been both foolish and grossly negligent not to support her as energetically as we did, but nothing was at the expense of the very gifted Angie. Angie signed with the revitalized Stax Records and released The Art of Love and War in 2007, the highest charting album of her career. Fans and critics alike saw the album as a return to form, but her time at Stax started out hot, then quickly cooled. She began to be perceived as more of a legacy artist. Angie kept working on music, but with a new approach. She joined the second season of TV1's R&B Divas Atlanta in 2013. Now, Angie had some rough moments on the show, but she embraced the role of a mother hen. The show was a smash, but Angie's personal life again trickled into her work. While on the show, Angie became engaged to her manager, Ashanti Graves, but the real action was happening behind the scenes. According to Angie, she discovered Ashanti was having an affair with a production staffer during the third season. She decided to leave the show despite it showing strong promise for a season 4 renewal. But out of all the public controversy Angie weathered, an incident with her daughter Diamond might have been the worst of all. Diamond and Diamond's 2 children were living with Angie, and Diamond acknowledged she and Angie argued more like sisters. One day, Angie had a friend visiting, and she went to Diamond's room to tell her she needed to get her children under control and clean the house. An argument sparked between the two and quickly turned physical. It is unclear who became physical first, but when Diamond hit Angie with a closed fist, Angie picked up a metal stand and swung. Angie said she only wanted to defend herself and didn't intend to actually hit Diamond. Nevertheless, the stand hit Diamond in the mouth and broke several of her teeth. Angie says she immediately threw down the stand when she realized the damage, but she stated Diamond continued to charge towards her. The visiting friend intervened and broke up the fight. Angie and Diamond were both taken into custody. Diamond was released, but Angie was booked on a domestic aggravated assault charge. They spent the next year trying to do damage control, with the most compelling moments being during the TD Jakes show. In 2016, a grand jury declined to indict Angie, but Diamond was not happy about it. Diamond said, I didn't want her to go to jail, but I thought there would be some type of reprimand. I just wanted to be clear that just because she was not brought up on charges doesn't erase what she did. That's the main thing. I'm okay, my kids are okay. Everybody is doing well. But I don't want people to think because no charges were brought that it was fictitious or it wasn't as bad as it actually was. I don't want that to be forgotten about. Angie spent the last decade of her life trying to secure her legacy. The success of Bruno Mars and Mark Ronson's Uptown Funk created a plagiarism controversy, with some artists later receiving a songwriter's credit, but many felt the sequence should have gotten a songwriter's credit too, citing perceived similarities to Funk You Up. Angie said, Bruno Mars took the lyrics, the cadence, and the melodies, and then they went and reached over to Apache and got jump on it, jump on it. I'm like, okay, now y'all done did too much. We're broke over here, okay? We need some money. We need some of that because we created that. She felt the influence of the sequence was further disrespected when VH1 held its hip-hop honors in 2016 to salute female rap pioneers. VH1 declared Salt-N-Pepa was the first real female rap group and barely acknowledged the sequence. Salt-N-Pepa thanked the sequence in their speech, and Angie, Cheryl, and Gwen were invited to join Queen Latifah on stage to sing Unity, but the ladies felt insulted and left. According to a 2017 profile in Rolling Stone, Sugar Hill Records owned the sequence's publishing for 30 years, and it reverted to the group in November 2016. Still, things were complicated because Sugar Hill's office burned down in 2002 and destroyed the financial records. Angie said, "Even though we appear as writers of Funk You Up on the original label copy, we can't prove anything." Angie said she made pennies on the dollar from publishing during her solo career as well. She said, "I created a few publishing companies throughout my career. I've been robbed by at least 4 accountants. I had IRS liens because the accountants that was doing my taxes, they would pay themselves and not pay the taxes. So for a long time, I never received a royalty check for solo recordings. I was living show to show." In recent years, she confirmed she repaired her relationship with Diamond, saying, "For people that worry, know this. Teeth and tongue fall out, but mama and daughter going to always be mama and daughter. Just never forget that. My daughter and I are in the best position that we've ever been in. She's actually my executive. She's helping me with my social media. She's taking over from a business standpoint. Both of my children are now running my company for me, and you can't get anything past Diamond Stone because as mean as she was to me, she's worse to the world. So when it comes to her mom, she's not having that. Right now, we're thicker than thieves." She also supported her son, professionally known as Swabo Twain, in his musical career. In addition, she launched a hot sauce line called 400 Degrees in a charity named the Angel Stripes Foundation, designed to get essential items to senior citizens and children. In the last couple of years of Angie's life, she shared some of her health issues, including a blood infection in late 2024. Tragically, she lost her life in a car accident near Montgomery, Alabama on March 1st, 2025, after performing at a gala in the city. When asked what the brightest moment from her career has been, Angie said, "I think the musical highlight is when it's infused with gospel. I think when the song is inspired by God, it comes out excellent. Like No More Rain in This Cloud, I write some songs metaphorically, and that's been a highlight for me, just recognizing the ones that are from God." Thank you for spending your time with us. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share. Also, visit our Substack at blackamericana.substack.com and be sure to sign up for our newsletter. See you soon.